everybody's having
And
a great time. But I have to interrupt you. I'd like to take this opportunity to talk about our guest who's going to do highlights for us. Lynda Kosowan is from the Scarborough Women's Center. She's a pillar of Scarborough community, providing a place of empowerment and fostering positive change for women for the last 39 years. For 35 of those years, at WSC, Success and Immerse Community Impact has been tireless by her executive director, Lynda Kosowan. I also want to just read one paragraph that one of her coworkers wrote about her. It says, from Nadia Taylor, SWC board said Lynda has truly been the foundation for the success the center has had 35 years. Her involvement goes far beyond this into the community, the province, and the country, where she is a strong voice of wisdom and complex intersect women issues. And ask anyone who has been found fortunate to work or know Lynda, she is a gift to Scarborough, to women, to the important advocacy of work that is required in this community. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Lynda Kosowan, everyone.
Thank you very much, Angela. Thank you. So Gerard and I practiced sharing screen, so we're going to do it again, and hopefully it works again. So, yep, you can see it.
You bet.
Excellent. And then I'm just gonna, don't worry, I'm gonna talk fast. I'm trying to find the thing for share screen slideshow. It's how do I get it to go up?
just set up slideshow.
Pardon?
Down and to your right.
Oh, from beginning. How about that? Okay. Okay, so we're good now, right? All right. So thanks again for inviting me to come today. And I've been hearing great things from Marg about your organization, and I congratulate you on what you're doing, and I look forward to attending future meetings. As Angela said, my name is Lynda Kosowan, and I was raised in Scarborough, and I'm a graduate of the U of T at Scarborough, and I obtained my Master's of Social Work at U of T downtown, and I've been a registered social worker since 1993. And on March the 6th, just 2 days before International Women's Day, I celebrated my 35th anniversary with Scarborough Women's Center, which was, I don't know, it was like kind of a shock to get to 35 years with the center, but it was it's always been such a wonderful place to work and see impact in the community. My pronouns are she and her. So I was asked to say a little bit about International Women's Day, and that was celebrated on March 8th, but we kind of call it International Women's Month at this point. And it's a celebration internationally of the achievements that women have made in socially, economically, culturally, and politically. And it's also a call to action as well as a celebration. So looking at women's equality issues around the world, in our communities, and in our country. It was actually first celebrated in 1911 in response to unfair working conditions. And you'll also remember that was around the time that women started fighting for the right to vote and to have better pay. And in 1975, the United Nations celebrated International Women's Day for the first time, and in fact declared it International Year of Women. This year's theme was Choose to Challenge, and it was focused on challenging inequality for women locally, nationally, and around the world. Also on recognizing the impact on of the pandemic on women's vulnerability and inequalities that had shown up through the experience of the pandemic. And we also celebrate our contributions to the strength of our communities. Women have made a huge impact on community survival and thriving during this difficult period. Here in Scarborough, some people call it the she-demic. We have seen at Scarborough Women's Center an increase in gender-based violence and child abuse, women being locked down in unhealthy situations that they don't see a way out of. Women be kind of thinking, you know, we all thought it was going to be a few months, right, or a few weeks. I remember my staff saying, "Oh, we'll be back in 2 weeks." And as people thought, I can tough this out for a while, it'll be okay. And then over time, those coping skills start fraying if you don't have support. So we've seen a lot more anxiety, depression, uncertainty, and loneliness and isolation. And we've also noticed the impact of the digital divide as more and more things are online, or access to services are online. You know, signing up to get a shot, right, is online. If you don't have that access and knowledge about the digital world, or the access to the tech, that has creating more inequality as well. People who are living way too many people in one space because of the high cost of housing in our community. People losing their jobs. If you had a nest egg, you probably don't have it anymore a year in if you've lost your job. People doing risky work, which is so important work, like PSWs and grocery store clerks. And this really shocked me when I heard this from a group called Rethinking Breast Cancer, that they were talking about how there's a 40% drop in cancer diagnoses. And that's not because nobody's getting cancer, it's because it's more difficult to get access to testing and those kind of things. So there is a concern about people whose other health issues are not being addressed. Some of us that are working from home love working from home, but for others it's really isolating and physically hard on their physical health as well. You've heard about the COVID-15, which is the pounds that everybody puts on. On a brighter note, we've seen women starting their own business in response to the pandemic, whether it's making masks or doing other kinds of things to help their communities. And we've really seen communities coming together to support each other. We're actively involved in community clusters in both North and South Scarborough, and just seeing the importance of groups getting together, supporting each other and sharing information and identifying ongoing issues. It's really important. So our vision at the center, just to tell you a little bit about us, is to embrace diversity and empower women for brighter and independent futures. And we serve women from all over the world. Our focus is to empower them to become economically and emotionally independent for future success, and to strengthen their local communities free from violence. So always looking at how women can contribute and the talents they have that can be encouraged and nurtured, not only for themselves and their families, but for our community as well. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell you the whole history of Scarborough Women's Center, but we were formed in 1982. You may have heard about us back in the late 80s, early 90s, when we did the TTC surface route study that resulted in the Request Stop program for women who are concerned about getting off a bus at night. We won the Mayor's Community Safety Award in recognition of our work with abused women and their children. And right now we're in the middle of a special initiative called SAGE, Strategically Advancing Gender Equality, which is focused on our being able to better provide support gender equality in Canada and in our community. And as with everyone else, the last year has been a real focus on an ongoing adaptation to the pandemic. Our core programs are information, education, formal counseling, and informal mentoring. And our special programs are an outreach to young women called Building Strong Futures, as well as an outreach to women with disabilities called Expanding the Reach. And the women that we serve are generally diverse, vulnerable, and poor. 60% of them have a household income of less than $25,000 a year. A growing number have been victims of human trafficking or forced marriage. They tend to be marginalized by various intersections of their identity, such as race, ethnicity, disability, and so on. And and in these past 39 years that Angela was mentioning, the center has supported 175,000 women and their kids to achieve their goals for success, including leaving abusive situations, returning to school to develop marketable skills, obtaining employment, solving personal problems, and building support networks. So obviously there are many other outcomes that women have had, but those are some of the ones that are like really important, significant, highly significant. In terms of our response to the pandemic, we are still supporting women through all our services, and they're all still free. We're offering counseling by phone and web conference. We're doing webinars on a secure platform to provide confidentiality so that no one's exposed in terms of their participation. We have volunteer mentors who are providing support to women in transition by phone. We continue to provide information referral by phone and email, and one of the big things we've been doing recently is updating a whole lot of information brochures for specific kinds of women so that they reflect not only what's available as a resource, but also what the COVID response is so that women know how to navigate the resources they're trying to use. Our staff are working from home and we meet weekly for mutual support. As you know, the importance of seeing each other and just hanging out a little bit is important for us to self-care as well so that we can do good work on behalf of women who need our help. And we have a special initiative that we're doing to improve accessibility generally for women with disabilities. So for example, the webinars that we're doing, we're adding real-time captioning, and we're looking generally at accessibility across the board for everything we do. And then of course you notice that, oh, this is better for somebody who's not that comfortable hearing English because now they can read it as well with the real-time captioning as well as hear it, and all those kind of things, good for everybody, these accessibility features. We have the Young Women's Leadership Program was rolled out in the last few months. We actually were surprised because we thought we were looking for 20 young women, 15 to 19, and we had 65 women, young women apply to participate, which was kind of cool. 65, that's a lot of young ladies looking to develop their leadership skills. And we have been advocating for support for women who don't have access to tech. So just a couple quotes from women. I'm grateful for the support the center has provided. It's really made a difference in my life. And I'm grateful to your donors for making these services free, because that can be a huge barrier, especially if you remember what I was talking about in terms of the profile of the women. So thank you very much for inviting me and for listening. And please feel free to ask me any questions if we have 1 minute of time. And just I said, we're not alone. Women, the center is here for women. Please feel free to refer them. If you want to get involved in various ways, give me a shout. We can talk about it. And thanks for being you.
Thank you, Lynda. That was a good presentation. I'm so happy to know that all the work that you're doing at the SWC, and it was nice to meet you. Hope we'll see you on our Scarborough again. And now we're going to be introducing our next speaker of the evening, which is Suman Roy. He has an extensive career in the private and public sector, operations around the city of Toronto, both nationally and internationally. His contributions has led to the development and support of numerous social planning programs, business ventures, and successful community initiatives. Suman has been corporate and executive chef in various organizations like Campbell's Soup, University of Toronto, Sodos Canada, and Marriott International, which are just a few, where where he proved to be a successful business leader, prioritizing accountability while focusing on building a strong community. Suman is also the key consultant to help write the first food strategy for the city of Toronto. His initiative, Scarborough Food Security Initiative, to spread the awareness of combat food insecurities in Scarborough. And currently, Suman is the chair for the board of directors at FoodShare Toronto, Canada's largest food security and food justice organization. He is also a member of the Coalition for Healthy School Food, where he advocates and lobbies members, the federal government and Senate on various food initiatives. He is involved in the Bill S-28, which is Child Health Protection Act, and Bill C-291, which is GMO labeling legislation. So let's all put our hands applause to Suman Roy.
Thanks a lot, Angela. I didn't realize how embarrassing it is to listen to all of this. I was just praying and saying, okay, Angela, be quiet now. That's enough. That's enough. Don't read it all. Just cut it off.
I didn't read it off. I didn't read it off.
But thank you. And Lynda, to be honest with you, I know you had 1 more minute, but if you spoke for 20 more minutes, I would have loved to listen because I know your organization. It's amazing work you do here. So thank you and a great presentation. Good evening, everybody. What I really wanted to chat today is about a little bit about this organization that we created called Scarborough Food Security Initiative. And I want to talk a little bit about it, how it started, where we are going. But I think what I want to finish up with is a bigger conversation around food security in Scarborough. I think that is something that is going to be valuable to us because the reality is no one person can do this without the help of the whole community. So Scarborough Food Security Initiative was a very small community organization which was working for the last 2 years, and our main goal was just advocacy around food security. That is it. We never even had a bank account because we didn't need one. It's a bunch of neighbors coming together, understanding the inequities that is in our community and talk about it. Fast forward to March 2020, when we realized that we are in the middle of pandemic, and the only food bank that was supporting Southwest Scarborough decided to close because of safety concerns. We quickly realized that they were serving 350 families on the best of days. Now in the middle of pandemic, people do not have access to food. So, and literally we had not much experience in any of this.
On board.
So what we did was as most people do in the community, they met and took money out of their wallet, put on a table and said, let's go buy some food and get it to the people who need it. Great idea. We put some money, we went to No Frills, did our shopping, came back, and then we thought, okay, how do we know who to give it to? Now we got the food. So we quickly put a message out on social media saying, hey, if somebody needs access to food, let us know. And within days, we had over 1,000 families across Scarborough asking for food help. And that was 18th of March. I remember the date clearly. It's exactly a year now. Oh, wow. Okay. So over 1,000 families, we quickly realized putting money on a table is not going to cut it. So we reached out to people we knew or were connected with, like Second Harvest, Daily Bread Food Bank, FoodShare, and said, what can you do to help? Long story short, within days, we were serving food to over 1,000 families all across Scarborough, dropping groceries off to their home in the middle of pandemic, with 197 volunteers who used to come out daily with their car, load up the food, and just go to people's home and drop it off. It's amazing. It shows the commitment of the community. It shows the camaraderie that is in Scarborough. which kind of completely blew our mind. And it motivated us, okay, we need to do better. We need to do more. And we went on and we continued till the city decided to go into the third phase of opening, which also meant that we lost a bunch of our volunteers went back to work. So then we had to quickly figure out we can't keep on delivering to people across Scarborough because we don't have the capacity. What can we do? We can open food banks. And if we open food banks, one of the biggest problem, and I don't think I have to talk about this with this group, that transit is an issue. People are traveling 3 bus rides to get access to a grocery store. We realized from our clients that people were traveling an hour to get to a food bank, which is absolutely ridiculous. And especially in a country like Canada, 50 years ago, we agreed as a country that food is a human right in this country. And to have access to that human right, a lot of people don't have access to that basic human right. And second of all, they have to travel an hour to get access to it, which was ridiculous. So we tried to, and of course, we can't do it all across Scarborough. So we focused on Scarborough Southwest, primarily a little bit across South Scarborough, to open up 4 different food banks in the community. And so at least people have closer that they can get access to food. So that was going really well. And one fine morning, so one thing that I always ask my team, and this is our every weeks, we have this game that we play. What is the next innovation? What is the problem that we are here to solve? Our 99% of our team is volunteer. We have a very handful of folks who are now actually hired and get paid to do the job. But we are here because we are passionate about helping Scarborough residents. What can we do as innovation to make make everybody's life a little better? So one thing that came out, which was amazing, and I don't know how I never thought about it. So what we were doing in a food bank, and which a lot of food bank does, is people come, stand in line, they come to the door, they get their box or the bag of food, and they go away. Great. However, think about everybody around this table here. If you went to your local grocery store and the owner or the manager was standing at the door and saying, hey, this is what you feed your family this week, give you a box and say, keep moving, how would you feel? It's ridiculous. I am trying to tell somebody what they should eat and how they should eat, which is a fundamental problem. I remember 19 years ago when I first immigrated to this country, if anybody gave me a box of stuffing, I wouldn't even know where to throw, because why are you giving me dry pieces of bread? I have no idea what to do with it. I've never done anything with it, but you give me a can of chickpeas, I know exactly how to feed my family. But the model was in such a way that we were telling people, this is what you get. If you're hungry, you better learn how to feed your family with this. Whether it's culturally appropriate or not, nobody cares. That's what you eat. So that was a fundamental issue that we saw. So we had to figure out a solution. So then we said, what about we have a grocery store model in our food banks where everything is displayed, everything has a price, and people go through it, and we got to figure out how to do it free. We quickly figured out a way to make our own version of prepaid Visa card, if you can imagine. So when people come in, based on their family size, they get allocated X amount of, we don't call it dollars, we call it points. And everything in our food banks are point-wise priced. So they can pick and choose. If somebody chooses that, you know what, this week, all I'm going to do is just eat chips, so be it. Buy 20 bags of chips and go home and eat chips all week. Who am I to tell you that's not a right thing to do? It's your family, it's your life. We can educate you, we will guide you. But that was a model that we adopted, which was really fascinating, because we had seen in the food banks the first 2 weeks of the month, the demand is slightly lower than the third and fourth week of the month. Because when the checks are running out, the demand goes up. So this way, people can actually budget because they get the same amount of points. So the initial 2 weeks, they get less food. They can actually save up their points. And at the last 2 weeks, they can spend more. Or even if the kid has a birthday party or birthday at the end of the month or whenever, they can save up. So not only we did that, we had this huge educational campaign with all our food bank users on how to budget, how to eat healthy on a budget, and with the hope that even if when they graduate out of the food bank system, they will still carry that knowledge even when they walk into a grocery store. So that was our in fall. That was our big innovation. It went very popular. Clients love the idea about the choice that they can come, they can choose, they can. So that came with one problem, is we were actually attracting clients from other neighborhoods and other communities because the clients loved the idea about coming in and having the choice. So the problem was that we were way over our capacity. We increased, generally most of the food banks are 2 to 3 hours. We increased our food banks to 6 hours, 4 days a week. Still, our appointments were booked 3 weeks in advance, which was a huge issue on its own. We were trying to figure out now what we can do to increase our capacity. Then we came up with this other brilliant idea that if people of privilege, people who have money, can do their grocery shopping from Loblaws and Walmart online and then go pick it up, why can't people in food bank do that? Simple idea. So we piloted that 1.5 months ago. We have an online food bank now. When people can go online, shop just the way they would shop at Loblaws or any other companies, and fix a time, date, they can come pick it up and go. Our main goal was to be able to increase our capacity. We did a study with our clients and saw around 40 to 45% of our clients have access to a computer or internet or smartphone. So we figured out that if we can move these 40 to 45% of the client to online, then in our in-store, we just blew our capacity up to 40% more. So great idea. We did it. But one thing we did not think, which was an eye-opening for us, as soon as we opened that, at least 40 to 50% of our clients currently going online have never attended food banks ever before. So we dug into that a little more. And the huge issue was the stigma. A lot of people from different cultures going into a food bank is traumatizing. The stigma attached to food banks and poverty is huge. So they were not willing to come and stand in line to go into a food bank. But when it's online, they felt comfortable in ordering the food, and one person would come and pick up for 3 families and go with the orders. And that is something we never anticipated when we started, which is amazing. And that is how we actually build communities, we support communities. So that is going tremendously. Now we are thinking about what our next innovation is going to be. But what I want to bring it up is we understand stigma, we understand the problem. As an organization, we have a very simple goal. We are doing riding by riding, we are doing ward by ward. And our goal is in the next couple of years, we want South Scarborough, focusing not only Southwest, South Scarborough in the next 5 years. Anybody who wants access to food will have access to food. That's our commitment. And we can't do it by ourselves. There's not a chance. So what we did was strategically, we said, okay, we need other partners to come around the table and make the same commitment that we will make sure South Scarborough, anybody who needs access to food has access to food. So we went to the city and United Way, and we recently, just last week, we got a small funding to hire a person as our food security coordinator. And we have the blessing of the city and the United Way to work with other nonprofits, food related in South Scarborough, to come out with a unified food security strategy for South Scarborough, where all the nonprofits will participate together. And that document, of course, with United Way and the city being 2 very key funders for nonprofit, and they funding this project, they will adopt this document. We will send this document to other funders. And the whole point of it is really simple, that whenever any nonprofit around food from this area applies for a grant, the funders will actually put their application through the lens of the strategy. And that was important because even running nonprofits, one thing I'll tell you, whatever the ED or the board really feels strong about a project, they will do it. And in some cases, that might not be the project what the community really needs. But they do it because that's their strength, that's their go-to. We want to eliminate that, because what that is doing is we are keeping on duplicating our efforts on around the same space. And by that, we can never be successful as a community. So with this project and this strategy, the goal is actually to work together with all the nonprofits, figure out whose strength is what, and let people do their strength and let others do other projects to actually support the community. So we are really excited. We are hiring the food security coordinator. She's starting next week, actually on Monday, and we're going to get this ball rolling, which is actually going to help achieve our goal of within 2025, anybody in Scarborough, South Scarborough will have access to food. But we also know one thing, food security or food insecurity is not a food problem. It is very clear. Food insecurity is a poverty problem. It's a transit problem. It's a housing problem. All these actually go towards food insecurity. And it is, as much as we can get people access to food, we will still never solve the food insecurity problem till we actually all work together in all these different elements, get all three levels of government around the same table and have this conversation. It is not about a personal agenda. It is not about the color that you belong to. It is about the community, and that needs to be focused on. It needs to be about Scarborough, and that is where everybody's intention should be. And if it is not, as citizens, it's our job to actually help our elected officials to see that lens and to actually do meaningful work that will help the community. So that is our other thing that we are trying to figure out. Very recently, we had our first Feed Scarborough Summit, which we focused on Scarborough Southwest. We had Councillor Crawford, we had Minister Bill Blair, MPP Dolly Begum, all three come. And we had community members actually, if anybody, I know some of you were in that session, community members spent 2 hours actually working on questions together and then pose the questions to the elected official in the next 2 hours. It was tremendous. It was what I heard back from our elected official. It was a great conversation, and there were so many eye-opening moments that came from the community. But also what it really showed, and what we really wanted to show, is it is the community who actually needs to hold others accountable. We need to all work together and make sure we are doing what is best for the community. We had over 280 people on our Zoom meeting that evening from the community, just from Scarborough Southwest. We didn't even tap into other ridings in Scarborough. We just focused on this. Tremendous conversation. We are just finishing up a report that we're going to share widely with all our communities to see what came out of that summit. But the bottom line is we all need to unifiedly work together to uplift our community. And that is the key messaging, if I have any, is it is not, once again, I'm repeating myself, it is not about the color you belong to. It is, those are irrelevant. What is relevant is we are here in Scarborough, and I say it to the, we work a lot in Scarborough Southwest, where a train track literally divides the communities into haves and have-nots. Oak Ridge, which is just north of the tracks, and their annual household income is $39,000, while just south of the track, it's $79,000. That is the difference. And just north of Oak Ridge, the Clare Lee community is $74,000. And this is not an accident. It is a planning issue that the city had for years. It is poor planning that has caused these kind of inequities. And I'm just taking one example. Across Scarborough, there are many, many, many examples of inequities. It is what it is. We cannot go back in time and try to fix that. However, we can all come together and figure out how we can help the communities moving forward, which is really very important. The other interesting thing that I talk about is, and I mentioned a little bit in different forms in my previous few minutes, the importance, and this is something I actually tried to be the crystal ball owner up in April of last year, and I said, I can see the future. And the future of nonprofits has to be more collaboration. And we have gone the last quite a few years where not every, but a lot of nonprofits works in silos. But in April, I made that comment, and now we see it more and more. We see funders like United Way, funders like McConnell Foundation, trying to fund projects that is a lot more in collaboration than on its own, which is really fascinating to see, because as one organization, I can go chasing my tail as much as I want. I can never actually solve a problem unless we work together as a community in collaboration. And that we're going to see more and more in Scarborough. And that is what I kept in mind when I actually pitched the project to City and United Way about this unified food security strategy, because we have to work together. I will take another example, and this example I take because though it is not yet done, we are still working on the process, but Feed Scarborough is now trying to collaborate with an organization like Scarborough Arts. We are very different, but we are collaborating in projects so we can work together in helping the community on food security, but also in the arts, because we have our different reaches. We are just putting a proposal in front of the city in Scarborough Arts lot, where they have to put a container kitchen, which we will manage to train youth, at-risk youth, new immigrants, refugees on culinary and hospitality, and get them employed within our Scarborough community. Especially also keeping in mind the undocumented residents of Scarborough, who do not have ways in a lot of cases or afford to go to school. We have had conversations with Centennial College Culinary Program and we designed our training program based on their program. So after this 3 months training with us, if anybody wants to pursue as a career, they can go to Centennial and get some credit. So making their course even shorter. So there are different partnerships keeps coming up, and that is the only way we can actually move forward. A question that I get, like in 1 year, we have grown tremendously as an organization. In last 1 year, in the middle of pandemic, we run 4 food banks now. We have a mobile food program. We have grown. But one question that I get all the time is, what's your plan down the road? How do you envision Feed Scarborough? Where do you envision it to grow? And this is my dream. This is my vision. I want to have a space which will build a three-story building. And I say 3-story because it's very significant to me. The main floor will be all emergency and urgent programs like food bank, soup kitchens, whatever the emergency programs are. The second floor will be the programs which is long-term solution, like training programs, anything that will get people actually get into working and get out of poverty, get out of food insecurity. And the top layer will be the third, it will be the research and policy lab. Because without any one of these 3, we can never solve the problem of food insecurity. You need emergency band-aids, you need long-term solutions, and you need policy to back up to actually get out of this mess we are in. And that is the vision. We need all 3 to work together, hand in hand, to come up with this solution for Scarborough. So that is my vision, and I'm putting it out there because I know if I put it out, someday the universe will listen and figure a way out. We are on our way of starting a capital campaign at the end of the year to start raising funds for that goal. So we are getting it into, we are trying to put it into reality and having that conversation to see how we can do it. But it is so interesting to actually embed policy, because as I know Councillor McKelvey is here, and she knows very well that policy is such an integral part to actually having a long-term solution to any problem, and may it be in a municipal level, provincial level, federal level, it has to work together. Otherwise, I always say food banks will never solve the problem of hunger. It'll never. I run 4 food banks. I know. It'll never do that. But what will actually solve the problem of hunger is a lot more strategic policy level changes that needs to happen. We can just put the band-aid. And I realized, and I have been a chair of food share for the last 6 years. I had always spoken against food banks. I thought food banks are the problem in the society. Food banks should never exist. And I still feel that I want a world when all my food banks can go out of business because it's not needed. But at the end of the day, you need to put the band-aid to stop the bleeding before you actually fix the wound. So till we actually get to fixing the wound, the need of a food bank, that band-aid needs to exist. And to conclude, before we get into questions or any conversation, my call to this group, because SCRO is such an integral part of Scarborough, my call to action to you is we need all your help in having this conversation. Not only to come and help our organization, but whatever organization you belong to, you support, we need to all get together and have serious conversation on how we can strategically work to get to eliminate hunger and food insecurity from Scarborough. So that's my call to you. Please, by all means, reach out to us. You can follow us on Feed Scarborough is our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also our website is feedscarborough.ca. Follow us, see what we are doing, and let's have this communication, because together we will only be successful and strong. So do we open up for some questions?
Suman, we just have, before you do that, I want to thank you for your presentation. It was very, very well informed. And I learned a lot more about food banks than I did before. Well, thank you. And before we do questions, I'd like to introduce you to Denise Bacon, and she's here to just tell us a little bit about membership in SCRO. Thank you.
Just before Denise takes over, I got to say she is one of our superstar volunteer. That's it. Go away, take away, Denise.
I blush. Actually, I'm really thrilled to be a part of Feed Scarborough and make a small contribution as I doing whatever I can. I'm actually on the call. Thank you, Angela, for the opportunity to just do a shout out. I know that we've got a number of people on the call here, and we did a recent survey that told us that only about half the people that attend our Scarborough sessions are actually members of SCRO. So I'd like to invite those that are not members of SCRO to please sign up. Just sign up as a member. Every membership adds strength to the voice of SCRO. It adds strength to the community of SCRO. And as a resident of Scarborough, you have a vested interest in the success and the growth and the wealth. And I don't mean just material wealth, but just the wealth of Scarborough. So please join. In 2021, because of the pandemic, we are not having any in-person sessions. So our costs are somewhat minimal. We're not charging any membership fee whatsoever this year. So you can sign up for free. Later on this year, we'll determine what the fee will be for 2022, and we'll inform you in good time. So if you get a chance, go on to scro.com and sign up as a member. Thanks, Angela. And back to you, Suman.
Awesome. Thank you. Angela?
So we have questions. Marge, are you doing the questions?
You're doing the questions, Angela.
Oh, I am. Oh, sorry. Okay. Just give me a second while I go back to the top. I don't want to miss anyone's question.
I have a question in the meantime.
Okay, go ahead.
So Suman, when you say South Scarborough, what's the territory you're thinking of? It's the first time I've heard that term.
So South Scarborough, according to I'm going with the city definition, it's south of 401.
Okay.
And south
All
of
right.
401, Victoria Park over just before Pickering.
Okay. And if you could allow me a second question, what is the qualification to be a client of the food bank? Like, what's the criteria? Is it a salary clip level? Is it
Yeah, there is
family
only
size?
there is one qualification. You need to be a human being, and that is it. We don't check anything. You come in, we do take your name and date of birth. However, if you, John, come and say my name is Justin Trudeau and I was born yesterday, we will believe you and record you that way. We never check ID. We don't check anything. We just take the name and date of birth just for our data, just to keep track of the data. But then again, we make sure that we don't really check ID because of the whole stigma, and we don't want to create barriers for people to access.
Okay, so you're not concerned that people that are better off taking advantage of the food bank.
No, John, it is really interesting because and I'll tell you this very personal story of mine. Last year, and on 16th of March, at that time, the job I was doing, I got laid off. And being laid off, I'm house rich. I've got a house. I have a nice car. I'm car rich, but I was only relying on $2,000 of CERB. And if my wife at that point, she lost her job, then the money we got from CERB would go straight into our mortgage, and we wouldn't have money to eat. And I would be looking at food bank. So it's really, I always say that if you think you need access to food bank, you probably do, and we welcome you with open arms. And that is our philosophy.
Thank you.
Okay, so Lynda, there's a question. People are asking how they can get a hold of you. What's your contact?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did put my email address in the chat. It's
Okay.
ED for executive director, not for Ed, at scarboroughwomencenter.ca. And if you just Google Scarborough Women's Center, you'll find us. So please feel free to drop me a line.
Okay, and there's a question. It says, hi Lynda, thank you for all your work that you do. That was a great presentation. I am wondering what your thoughts are in terms of public awareness for resources such as Organization for Women in the Community to access. In your experience, is there enough general public knowledge?
There's never going to be enough knowledge, but we're definitely working on it. And it's weird because sometimes I go, someone will say to me, everywhere I go, I hear about you. And other people say, how come I never heard about you? I'm a block away. So it's an ongoing struggle to reach out to folks. And we are actually really fortunate because we were chosen as the Uplift client by a local communications group as their pro bono client for the year to help us work on our communications strategy and our outreach to the community. So I'm hoping that will get more folks who need to know about us to become aware. Thanks.
And thank you. And someone else asked, what does it take to join SWC?
Well, if we do have a membership, and it's women are welcome. Well, anyone is welcome to become a member of the center. If you want to participate in programs or do volunteer work, the website has a lot of information about what's available and how to do it. Or you can drop me a line and I'll explain. So, but please take a look at the website because I think it's pretty informative around what's available. So that's ScarboroughWomenCenter.ca.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. That's all the questions that I see for you.
Thank you.
Now we get to Suman. Suman, what organizations are you working with, and how can you help each other financially and operationally?
So right now, when we are talking about the food strategy, food security strategy, we're going to work with any and every nonprofits that is in South Scarborough working on food security. And the city has a list, and we all sit around a cluster, the South Scarborough cluster for the city. And I think there is 23 organizations, if I'm not mistaken. So that is who we are starting with. But also, I think one thing that we miss on that city cluster, which I'm going to also focus on, is faith-based organizations. Because the faith-based organizations does a very amazing job in Scarborough in supporting with food and access. And I think with our program, we will, not our program, but with the research, we will get them all involved in having to actually build a stronger community down here.
Okay. Well, there's another, I think the same question that John asked is, what is South Scarborough and what are the border streets?
So how we define is anything below 401 and west and east of Victoria Park, and straight down to the lake and just at the border of Pickering is where we end.
Okay. Someone else says, what kind of data are you collecting?
So with this strategy, we do quite a few research projects. One of the research projects we are currently working on, very different from the strategy piece, and this we are working very closely with UTSC, is on our usage of food bank, keeping in mind how people of color are impacted more drastically with COVID. We all know that, but we are putting some numbers behind in Scarborough Southwest primarily, is what exactly the numbers are happening. And we are, so that is one research project we are working on. But the food security strategy, this is something that we are first looking at doing an environmental scan on what projects different nonprofits are working. And then we are actually planning to go into the communities to figure out the needs of the people, and then mapping it along with the services in that community. So understand that what people really think the need is, are the nonprofits really delivering, or we are over delivering in some places and under delivering in the other? What exactly is happening? And I don't think a proper a cluster-wide strategy has ever been done. And also, to be very honest with you, once we were talking about this, North Scarborough cluster has also agreed to do a project very similar to this in North Scarborough, which is amazing, because after both of us, we do these projects, we will have a unified Scarborough-wide strategy, which is superbly amazing.
Okay. How can we get updates on upcoming projects related to food insecurities, community meetings, or summit?
The easiest and the best way is follow us either on social media or on our website. We update all of them regularly. Social media, you get a lot more information, of course. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whichever you are comfortable with. And that is the best way. Otherwise, we are currently located at 2229 Kingston Road, though it is a very temporary space for us. And we are looking for our more permanent space. But if you're driving by and wanted to come and see what we do, everybody is always welcome. Come by. We are here at least from 8 to 4 Monday to Friday, and 10 to 1 on Saturdays. So it's an open invitation. Come on, walk through our warehouse, walk through our grocery store model of the food bank, see what we do.
Great. I think you just answered the next question, which is how can someone reach your services? So
if somebody needs our services, it based on what kind of service. And once again, the ideal, what we say is go to our website. All the services are listed, and you can actually find where you are, what time and what day the services are. You will see our online food bank there as well. Or the other option is pick up the phone, call us, and chat with our wonderful operations team who is on site, and they will answer any questions that you have.
Okay. Are you interested in partnership with grassroots groups?
It's so funny I'm getting this question because I consider we are a grassroots group. So absolutely, because I realized when we opened a year ago how difficult it is for a small community organization to be successful. It is very difficult, and I don't want to name different organizations or embarrass any organization, so I won't name the challenges, but I will say this: it is very, very, very difficult. And especially during times when we started, when a lot of bigger organizations closed their door trying to figure out what to do with COVID. And there was a group of community members who are really coming out every day, working so hard, and the obstacles and the red tapes we had to face, it's it's really not a good situation. So from Feed Scarborough Food Security Initiatives side, we don't want to be that. We want to be the one who actually uplifts any small community organizations, grassroots, or even not an organization. If it's a handful of community members working to help others, we want you to we want to hear from you. We want to support you. Tell us what we can do to help you. How can I help? And this is an open invitation to all.
Great. I don't see any other questions. If anybody has any questions, you can
I think
stop to ask a question.
Suman,
yes.
as you know, Christchurch is one of your branches, if I can say that. You mentioned your interest in connecting with faith groups. Several of the Anglican churches in Scarborough have food banks. Are those the kind of people that you want to talk to and see who they're serving and see how we can be part of this in a bigger way?
Absolutely, Jackie. I think that is really very important because, as you know and I know, that a lot of these faith-based groups, they're all working solo and all working in silos. If we can all get together and work together, we can achieve a lot more success. And even if it means, even if you're going and buying food, for example, if you go to Metro and buy food to serve, I can probably spend the same money you would spend and get you 10 times more food with our buying power of the warehouse.
Right.
So even basic things like that, we can do magic.
Yeah, we do. I have given letters on church letterhead to a couple of our team members who do the shopping, and usually if it won't get them a better price, it will allow them to buy more than the usual limits. So we're doing very well because we've had a food bank for 30 years, but in the time of the pandemic, we are now serving each week as many people as we used to serve in a whole month. And
exactly.
The sign says 9:30 to 11. When I go over at 8 o'clock to open the door, they're there. And I asked a couple of them why, and it turned out that they were mothers coming to get the food and get home before the kids had to start online school. So timing can be an issue as well because of other people's life structures. But
exactly. And just to Jackie's point, I think this is a great story that I really want to share because Jackie runs a food bank and has been running for in Christchurch for I don't know how many years, maybe 30?
Just about 30 years. It started when some parishioners weren't coming to church because they had nothing to put in the plate at the end of the month, or if they put money in the plate, there wasn't money for food. And the then interim priest said, this is baloney, let's fix it. So we did. And for years, we were purely supported by other parishioners. But now the word is out. And since we got our fancy new sign, people walking by have dropped off food and called us, and we find checks in the letterbox and things.
Which is amazing. And I got a call, I think it was end of summer from Councillor Crawford's office and said, hey, there is a church who is looking for some help. Are you able to go and see if you can help? And so Councillor Gary Crawford and myself, we both drove down together to see the space. And then we said, okay, we can certainly help. And every week, because of the food bank, we send a bunch of food over, and Jackie's team actually distributes it to all the clients. And that is the kind of partnership we do with smaller organizations, grassroots, or even faith-based groups. And this is more like this needs to happen. We have another example out in Kennedy and Eglinton at a mosque. It is exactly the same situation. They needed some help. They reached out to Minister Bill Blair's office. They connected with us, and now every Friday we have a food bank there, where they're volunteers. We just get the food, and we work with them to distribute it.
And we go with a variant on the storefront. Half the stuff's downstairs, half the stuff's upstairs, and we send up a checklist of what they say they want. And the customers have told us that they really appreciate us asking them what they want instead of giving them a box of stuff that they maybe can't use. So that personal touch is critically important to them.
Choice matters.
Yes, particularly we're right in the middle of Scarborough Village, which, as some of you probably know, is one of the most mixed areas, if you like, in every possible way. So, we have all kinds of possibilities to serve them with the food that they know and like. I tell you, the rice goes like you wouldn't believe.
So I have one other question. It says the largest expense people have is rent, seldom below 600 for the worst accommodations. What is your thought on high rents?
If anybody working in the social service world says that, oh, it is what it is and we can live with it, I don't know what they're thinking. Rent is certainly, and that is why the services like we do are more prevalent, because after rent, people have nothing left. And that is the reality of it. And we don't have the power to make that change. And I know there are various city policies right now, which is actually trying to slowly sway that and do things that might help. However, this is not something that can happen overnight. This takes time. And till then, that is where we come in place to, at least if I can not help you with rent, at least I can make sure that you have food to eat so you don't have to go buy food or worry about food. And appropriate food. It's not just food, which is really important.
And at this time, with the schools being closed, that's an extra meal they have to provide because there's no breakfast programs or snack programs or anything.
Exactly.
Is there any more questions?
I think somebody has a hand up.
Who is that? Sorry, just unmute yourself and ask her question.
Hi there. My name is Christine, and I represent 2 neighborhoods in Scarborough. I'm a deep-rooted resident in the Dorset Park neighborhood, and I also work in East Scarborough. I just wanted to highlight some of the work that residents have been doing throughout the pandemic with neighbors serving neighbors, particularly like with no funding and purely with people power, and the importance of the relationships that the people hold with the organizations that serve them. And they mentioned that it was mentioned earlier that that's often something that is difficult for organizations where they have the resources and may not have the relationships with the people that they serve. And when you harness the power of the people and the residents and the leaders that live there and include them in processes such as this, where they're sitting side by side with the people that are making the decisions, we can include them in systems that work for them, with them. When we are closed off and have these conversations without the people that you're serving and that will best benefit we can eliminate that step and build a relationship from the ground up. We able to align with grassroots leaders across Scarborough to get good food box donations, fresh food, culturally appropriate food to the people. We had 100 boxes delivered a week for about, well, next week is going to be our last week. And these are the things that have happened very quickly because of the trusted relationships with the people in the community. And now that the funding is coming up, like coming to an end, and we have to go through it all over again, the sustainability aspect is something that we don't know nothing about, and we don't necessarily make the decision on that. And there's usually a gap in meeting the needs and the money that's available. So I don't know if there's something we can do right away, so that way, like right after Easter, there's not that gap until we're able to get something or get that resource back in the neighborhoods that need it.
Christine, I think one thing that I'll say that we are just launching a pilot project in the community here called the PODS program, and which is once again supported by the city, where we want smaller community-led projects that it doesn't have to be an organization, but community helping community kind of a project. There is some little funding that is available through it, but also it's a lot of mentorship as help you try to find funds or apply for grant and trustee you and things like that. So I would say if you need anything that we can help with, please reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to support the smaller initiatives, which I think is really very key to our success.
We're also looking at like small, medium, and long. So small term with, applying for the small funding, but also integrating that into the work plans of the community organizations that serve the people. And they're all different in each neighborhood you go to. So what may be culturally relevant in one may not be as big as another one. Like some of the neighborhoods that you mentioned have like a large population of South Asian, East Asian, Caribbean. And when we talk about multicultural, we usually just wrap that up in just one category, where it may not be culturally relevant all the time. So being included in every step, in every process, the small ones, but also into the medium ones where you're working side by side with residents and you're not looking at them as just volunteers that get paid in honorariums, but respecting that work that they're putting in so that they're an integral part of the system. Because poverty is a system. And when you attack those systems and try to break them down, those people that are negatively impacted by the system need to be included in the system to make the proper right decisions for their community that they live, work, and play in.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely correct, Christine. But if there is any groups who need urgent help or anything, please reach out to us, info@feedscarborough.ca. That's our organization's email. And we will try to see what we can do to assist.
Okay. So you might have one last question. Okay. Suman, do you guys accept food items delivered to your location? Is there any particular time and day designated for deliveries?
Yes, absolutely. We, of course, love donations Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m.
It's Denise. May I jump in, Suman?
Go for it.
I don't know if people read something that I had written and was published in the Mirror recently, and I'm really strong on this. The Gilwood community in December had a fabulously generous donation campaign, and we had, I would say, 1,500 bags, grocery bags of groceries delivered to our warehouse. Unfortunately, what we got was a lot of peanut butter, a lot of the same kinds of products, and not so much what our clients absolutely need. So, as much as food donations are a wonderful gift, they're a generous gift, they're heartfelt, I would suggest that if people feel a need to contribute to any food bank, please give money. Suman had mentioned earlier that his buying power, his purchasing power is way greater than any one of our purchasing powers might be at a grocery store. So we still can get that feel-good feeling about helping to feed a family by giving money. And then that money can be used to buy what our clients need rather than what we want to give. There's the gap. So I just wanted to please put a pitch in there. We don't turn away food, but money is always king.
Agreed, Denise. Food is always good. If you have sitting in your house that you don't know what to do with, yes, bring it over, we'll take it. But if you're going shopping to do this, that even that $10 and $20 will go a long, long way for us. And I'll give you an example, because we are now an anchor agency for all of Scarborough for Daily Bread Food Bank. A whole skid of food cost me around $110. A whole skid of food, and $110, I can't even shop a week for my home from the grocery store. So that is what the power, the buying power that we have, which helps us tremendously. So yes, dollar is the key for sure.
I think
Am I
that,
off mute?
I think that's about it. We have like 3 minutes to go. So,
No, can I ask a quick question before you go?
oh, sure, go ahead.
Sure. One question. He's talk about let me see if I get this right. That he deals with the community south of the 401.
Yes, south of 401 is considered South Scarborough.
Okay, so I'm in East Scarborough, right? And I know that we had the food bank that was going on from the East Scarborough Boys and Girl Club. Now the program stopped today, right? And our residents, a lot of seniors, are now asking how and in which way can they still get food? Is there any way that your organization would provide, or do you deliver food to people in East Scarborough?
So Desreen, one thing is we don't deliver, unfortunately, as of now, because we don't have the volunteer, but it doesn't matter where they are coming from. We will serve anybody who comes, doesn't matter where they live. So East Scarborough, West Scarborough, Etobicoke, we don't care. We will serve anybody who comes. The best option could be that if they have access to, or anybody is able to go online and shop for them from our website, and maybe one person comes and takes all the 10 orders and drops it off. If you have a volunteer to do that, that might be a very good option. We work with a group out in the Crescent Town area where almost 70 families, they order from us, and there is a group of 3 or 4 volunteers who come, picks up for everybody, and then drops it at people's homes. So those are options. We don't unfortunately have a delivery model right now.
Okay, so that doesn't sound bad. And what's the website that we go to?
Feedscarborough.ca. I'm going to put it in the chat so everybody can see it.
And do they have to be signed up with your organization in order for us to?
Yes, they will need to be signed up to have an account, which once you go on our website, it'll automatically tell you how you can sign up. You don't need any documentation for that. Just have your name and a date of birth. And I only say that whatever name and date of birth you write, just remember that. That's all I asked for.
Okay. Okay.
Awesome.
That sounds good. Okay, thanks.
Laura raised her hand.
Yes, I've been in and out. I've had some internet issues and now I'm just trying to brush my kids' teeth, but this is very interesting conversation. So I am a resident leader in the Scarborough area as well. And we pretty much hit the ground running last April. We had an opportunity to apply for Second Harvest and we received some supports from Food Share. But as Christine mentioned, when the funding's up, it doesn't mean the need's up. And we're in a situation where some of our funding is ending in March. We're partnering with agency partners to see how we can extend that, but it is very temporary and limited. So I'm glad to hear about Feed Scarborough, and I think you answered the question that I put in the chat about working with grassroots groups and using very sincere lenses to ensure that, you know, low-income volunteers are compensated. And I feel a great way to be able to do that is to partner on grant applications so that consideration is written in. My question is Feed Scarborough a charity? And in regards to the cluster, if a grassroots group is interested in that type of building that type of partnership, does that mean that we have to sit at that table? Can you speak more about how that could work?
Absolutely. We did get a charity status earlier this year, which we are super excited about because that opens a lot of doors, as I'm sure you know, Laura. But yeah, you don't need to sit on any table to come and work with us or partner with us. If you're a small organization and need help in Scarborough, we want to help you. If it is in our capacity, if we are able to do it, we are here. We don't, I strongly, and this is a cliche, but I strongly believe in shattering the glass ceiling. I like glass pieces everywhere, not on top of my head. So yeah, let's do it. Let's get it done. So we are here.
Okay, in
Great.
the interest of time, it's time to wrap it up.
Yep, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Gerard for closing.
Oh, no, you introduce it. I just show the screen. Come on, you got read the agenda. Our next event is.
Okay. Our next event is on April 1st. We will have Omar McDaddy speaking from the Rouge National Urgent Park. And the highlights will be from Stacey Ann Berry, author and poets about environment, and the theme of it will be Earth Day. We'll start at 6:30 for networking, 6:45 for the highlights, and 7 o'clock for the guest speaker. Right. And you can register at scro.ca/our Scarborough. Thank you.